Hey, yes, I'm here again, and tonight we're going to get into some really good stuff. This tonight is going to be a reaction to one of the YouTube video people and personalities well known in the African diasporan slash Pan African movement, YouTube, you know, basic platforms and stuff like this. So we're going to get into it, and if you're ready, are you ready? Let's get it. Assalamu alaikum and peace and blessings and keep up the lessons. This is your brother Taalib from the Brother Taalib Show, and I'm here this evening to give you some good information. And it's a reaction actually to the good gentleman and brother from the African diaspora, and as we know, black to Africa. And I think his name is Coffee something, if I can remember. But he's a good person, pretty much genuine good guy out there, traveling around the world, and well, put it this way, traveling around the continent of Africa, especially, let alone other things that he's done in his life, as he spoke, in one of his videos about his background and history of traveling and his life. But pretty much from what I know him to be, and this is not like a battle or coming at him and attacking anything like that. So I want him to know, and those who follow him and so forth. But it's a reactionary because he did bring into his video speaking about religion and the difference of the understanding of religion in relation to Christianity, especially. Not too much of Islam, but what they mainly went on was the Christian version or concept that was from the European. That even in Islam, we know a lot of fallacies, a lot of falsehood, a lot of put in and, indoctrinated versions in order to continue their supremacy, as we know from when white supremacy became and was even born, and the predominant push and movement to bring about their supremacy throughout the world, let alone especially Africa, because of our people and knowing the richness and the greatness of our people and being able to have to be so, gifted by Allah, blessed by Allah, but at the same time, we were also accursed because of our actions, because of what we did, because of the deviance from monotheism to paganism. See, now this is the point that I want to make first before I get into this. Basically what I'm going to do here, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and click the like button if you enjoy everything. It's going to be a little long video. I'm going to try to cover as much as I can. I'm going to be going in and out of what the gentleman here he speaks about a little bit, and then he has a video on a person who happens to get into they're actually in Egypt, and they're into Kemet, their religious or spirituality called Kemetic, spirituality, and they deal with the ancient Egyptian connection of Kemetic spirituality. So I know a little bit about it. I've studied under a scholar myself and so forth, but he's a Pan-Africanist, and that's when I was on my Pan-Africanist and black nationalism, and to my time, in my era, as some people are today. I was there, and mashallah, I'm not trying to boast myself up and say, okay, well, I'm there and I've been there and I've done it already and I'm past those people. No, Allah gives us in certain levels, and we all are learning and striving to learn. So genuinely, if you're striving to learn, and like this man, this brother here, he's traveling around the world and traveling in Africa, especially to learn, and he wants to sit, he wants to see stuff, he wants to visually see stuff written in stone. And we're going to speak on that. But basically, Islam started, and this is not to defend Christianity or any other religion that's upon monotheism, but Islam is the perfected belief of monotheism. Tawheed is the concept, the true, clear concept of what true, pure monotheism is. uncorrupted monotheism. Not where the people come in and then later they pick and choose what they want. They take away from stuff that it was mentioned with the Jews that did this first. And they were the first people, or not the first people, but they initially got most of Allah's word to them as a chosen people to bring out a lot of the word of Allah, the revelations and the Torah first, if we know from Musa with Moses, and he has a connection with Egypt. He has a connection with ancient Egypt. And of course the ancient Egyptians left that out. About Ramses, yes. Okay, but there's history on that, and even his body, as the brother speaks about, etched in stone. The body, the physical body, was in the grave, and it was taken and it came up out of the grave. That has been mentioned and was revealed from Allah, and that his body, this would be done to him because it was a curse on him for what his disobedience and calling himself a tagut, a god. Okay, so this is the point. So Islam is a belief, a way of life that has been established from beginning of man and animals and the angels and the jinns and the planets and the universe. Islam has always existed, meaning submission to the Creator. Simply put, submission to the one and only Creator who's created all things. Who's created all things, not just African people, not just European people, not just Asian people, not just any other people, let alone the creatures upon the earth besides us. Whatever species of creation it is, plant life, microorganisms, okay, things we can't even see with our naked eyes. We have to look into microscopes, high-powered microscopes that magnify thousands upon times to be able to see it. Microorganisms, organisms, period. Us and the animals and the things that we can see, let alone the unseen beings like the jinn and the malaika, the angels. Okay? And then those far galaxies that we can't see because we don't have that power to do that. Because Allah didn't give us that, like science and all these studies and theories that still haven't been proven with facts of what we understand in science, coming from all different nations of all different eras, whether they were different years and centuries and decades and millenniums. It doesn't matter because the Creator who originated the beings to exist, period, is the point where we get Islam. So now that we understand that Islam brings a whole different type of understanding, and the Islam is connected with the being directly, Allah. It's not connected with this person in the middle and this person in the middle. Even though Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his prophet and messenger, and he had plenty of messengers, that message directly comes from that. And that prophet does not bring anything that he's mentioned in his hadiths, which is the words and statements of the prophet and his actions that were recorded, that was saved, that he would never mention anything from himself without what Allah revealed to him, without what his Creator revealed to him. And the same with the other prophets. And if they did so, they was in error. And then they was corrected by Allah, because Allah knows you're trying to talk what is something that I didn't give to you. I'm gonna correct you. I'm gonna make you right, and you're gonna know it. And Yunus, Jonah, that was swallowed up by the fish or the whale, different narrations. He was corrected because he was trying to give a message to his people that they didn't accept it, and he got upset about it and left them. Allah didn't tell him to do that. He says, "You are a messenger. I sent you to this, do that, relay the message." Basically, in the words, in paraphrasing, okay, because this is in the Quran. These are statements of these prophets before in the past, and Allah spoke about the Egyptians, and Pharaoh was the main one they spoke about. Yusuf dealt with the Egyptian. He dealt with an Egyptian ruler, general, and his wife. There's different scenarios and situations and times that he was dealing with Egypt. But we as a people, we want to get into blackifying our connection with the Egyptians and any other African ancient nations, because we want to basically try to give ourselves some background. And this is understood. We want to give ourselves some basis. And this is understood. It's well understood. But blackifying it doesn't purify it, because we have black people who have done wrong and are evil and was evil then. And Pharaoh, he was a black man. He was African. He wasn't from Asia. He wasn't from Europe. He wasn't from none of those places. But he did his wrong. And those people who worship these gods and false gods was the worst of the wrong, as it's been clarified. Now, let me give you this too. And this will clarify, we can believe, and we can go and search, and we can want to find and see and all this type of stuff, and do research and find our heritage and find our background. But Allah gave us what it is now today. And Islam came and re-entered Africa, as far as the understanding that the Prophet brought was perfected understanding. But what the other prophets that dealt with those people then, like Musa, he was a prophet of Islam. He was a prophet that believed in the one deity. Ibrahim is in and out of Africa. In and out of Egypt. Okay? He wasn't just in Egypt, but he was in around those areas, and land of Ur, Mesopotamia, those areas that he was. And he traveled. He traveled a lot with his cousin Lut. Or Lot, as they say in the biblical terms. Different name from the languages. That's all. Now, the European brought and used their own language. Now, we're going to clarify together that what he says goes together as far as Islam. Yes, the Europeans did copy versions from ancient Kemetic versions of, or what they depicted virgin birth and then its mother, and then how it came to be. And they took that. Yeah, that's where they stole, because that's what they were upon. They were upon paganism already. They were upon paganism, but the ancient Egyptians were black pagans. That's all. They was African pagans. Polytheists / polytheists. They believed in gods. They made themselves gods. They died, and then the people who knew after those times and the greatness of their living and what they did, they gave them godly positions. Yeah, this is what has happened. But that doesn't mean that it's right. But, we're going to get into it, and I'm going to go through some of what he's saying. It's 12 minutes in. I got to get this video started. So let's get into this and hear what some of the brothers starts off with first. I'll let them get to that part anyway. Let me see. Hold on. Wait. Yeah. I'm going to just let them open up, okay? So just hear and listen in. You ready? Okay, here we go.
When I started off this channel, Go Black to Africa, and I entered into Africa for the past 4 years, I gathered up a lot of information. I had to do a lot of research. I did a lot of traveling across the globe to find my truth. Now, I know there are people who don't have that liberty like I've had to be able to get up, pay all that money, get on planes, go seek and touch to hear what I wanted to find for what would be the truth, not for me to slant anything in my own bias or prejudices. I wanted to find the story, the real stories, whether it would hurt me or not. So I had to delve into some of the Europeans' histories, and I had to delve over into, African history, American history, South America, Canada. I have been to many places except for Asia, because the time had never permitted. Though next year I will be also over.
Now, okay, just to get past that, because the time, he just gets into basically what he did as far as traveling, and given him the basis of his research, and being able to have some sound, I guess, pretty much sound evidence, or research that he can go by and produce his position on the topic that he's speaking about. Okay, so a lot of people may have not been able to go and travel to different countries as he has, or other people. And I'm not putting him down. Don't get me wrong. The brother, he's done his thing, and he deserves that credit as far as due. He put his time in, and he went out there and searched and researched. And not everybody does that. If you, like he said, not everybody has the opportunity to do this. Myself, most of my learning and research was up under people who were scholarly that did that. So they can teach you. They teach you from that which they learned from when they did it. Like Dr. Jeffries. This is one of the people that I want to bring to you so you can see. Yes, and he's a well-renowned scholar of Black studies and professor and the whole thing. Dr. Leonard Jeffries, Pan-African educator, which, you know, he's done his time. He pretty much did his time. You know, he as I can read a little bit, Leonard Jeffries, a political scientist, historian, educator, and Pan-Africanist, is a founding director and former vice president and president of the Association for the Study of Classical African Civilization. Jeffries, known for his African-centered scholarship, achieved national prominence in the early 1990s, and that's when I was studying under him in college, when I was in City College. For his historical statements about Jews and European people. See, and he got into that stuff. He really did. He got into the Kemet. He got into the history of the Europeans, how they changed stuff. He got into the Jews, how they even was the first initial who initiated the changing, especially when it came to the Bible and came to the books of Musa and the first commandments and all these types of things. And in 1991 speech, he stated that Jews financed the slave trade. I was there, mashallah. 1991, that's when I was in school. And I remember that talk, and I made sure I got there. And so he, you know, basically, you know, that's enough. I don't even get into any more to, you know, keep going, but just was giving you, touching your base of who I studied under. And not just that because I'm, you know, trying to say, okay, well, yeah, I learned something too, and I know something too. No, so I'll give you a basis so that, you know, you don't think that, okay, well, what does he know? You know, because that's how some people do. Not saying the brother here, I'm saying other people, you know, those of you viewing. So, well, what is his credentials? Well, the brother, he's traveled all over the world and researched and stuff like that and whatever, and studied and went to school and was in college, as he spoke about his background. But, you know, I did my thing. And then I went to Egypt, lived there for 8 years. So I know. And the people, the predominant, and it shows proof, like I said, the predominant factors is that evolution of man's societies changed due to, of course, that was needed to be able to make them better, or that was forced upon. And in Egypt, the changes that happened that had taken place when it came to Islam. I'm not going to talk about Christianity because we know about what Christianity did, the Europeans did in Egypt. But as far as Islam is concerned, like this book right here, Islam in Africa, throughout history, which is by Sheikh Mohammed Aman Al-Jami. I went through this book, and I have a video, like 2 videos I did, part 1 and part 2, and you can go back in there. And, you know, if you subscribe, it's good because then you can click in and always have notifications of the videos. But you can go and see all my videos in my channel, on my channel, which is Brother Taalib. And, you know, I spoke about the people going in there. I mean, the people, how they entered this, you know, into Africa with Islam. Didn't enter with the sword. There's no proof to that. Anybody can bring it about and try to argue me if you want. And again, you know, for me, as I mentioned in one of my other videos, I stand in a position of being challenged. So challenge me, bring your proofs, bring your evidence against me then. And make a video if you want to do it, or we can do it in a position where we can do it. And I can even do it live, and then we can talk and get on a panel and we can go back and forth in a debate. I don't have a problem with that on certain topics, and I have to know the topic. We can talk about it first and know the topic that you want to discuss, and whether it's DM or email me, and my emails would be in the you know, description area, and then we can coincide, and I'll give you the link to the live, and then we can do that, and other people can be on the panel to ask questions and so forth. Of course, with respects due and on a organized manner, not no crazy thing and everybody's just yelling and going off. No, we're not going to do that. But basically, you know, I'm open for that, and that's what I'm going to be trying to do anyway, and get more dialogue in that way, because the most dialogue that goes on in these YouTube videos and YouTubers do is that they have one topic and they discuss it, and they have everybody that's pro topic. pro to that discussing, or pro on what they want to bring. And most of the people on the panel are geared to that. And then you have some people who come in that are not on that. They don't agree, and then they'll disagree, and then they'll get bombarded by the majority. And that's what happens. Or you have, like myself, I might speak, and then I'll have somebody come on and ask them questions and just try to control the conversation and bring most of what I'm going to bring. And if I really get too out of hand and indignant, then they might want to just say, listen, I'm gonna mute you, and we're not gonna talk anymore. I'm done. And like this. So, not saying that he's done it one time. I see it one time, but everybody does it. I mean, most people do it. That, especially those who have a lot of viewers and their subscribers and everything like that, and they're up there in those numbers, and they get a lot going on. So they're pretty much trying to really get people influenced. And even him, he says he's not trying to make anybody, or but he wants to give knowledge, and I'm coming from the same way. I'm trying to give you the understanding in Islamic way, in an Islamic understanding, because that's the problem. That is what's missing. Yeah, we hear about Christianity through the Christians, or the European Christians and their version, but not the version of Islam. It's barely there. And if anything, it would be misunderstood, is that, oh, we entered in Islam and forced upon the people and by the sword, and took slaves, and Arabian travelers came in and enslaved people. No, there's a lot of fallacy on these things. Then there's a lot of details that are not even clear, and they bring in people who, especially who have bias that prompt them to do this. They come in and they try to just bring all negatives. They don't bring no balance level of the argument. So basically, get back into it and let it go further. I've been discussing, a little much too much, so I'm gonna let it go, and we can listen in some more. Hold on.
China, Thailand, Japan.
Oh, I'm gonna go up. Let me move up a little bit. Hold on.
Mr. Go Black, or Mr. Black, excuse me.
Okay,
they think I'm
right now. He's just getting people coming in. Get a sip of my coffee. Let me see. I'm gonna go forward. Hold on.
That's where I was raised at. I was born.
Okay.
On my mind, but I stood up that day.
Not there.
Because I was going toward becoming a path.
Let's get to the point where he gets in.
Way in believing something, it was so challenging for me to tear that chains off my brain. Leaving your whole God.
He was talking a little bit about, and as I listened to how he went through, and I'm trying to go past because it's 23 minutes in. I don't want to go too long, but just enough to get as much as the juicy parts that I can, and for me to speak on and do my reaction to it. He's talking about his past and how he had his interaction with religion, especially Christianity. He was brought up, raised as a Christian. I don't remember which one, a denomination or sect, but he came up, and me myself, I came up as a Roman Catholic as well. So I know about Christianity pretty much on a basic scale to the highest you can go, besides being a theologian scholar. You know what I mean? I don't have all this knowledge and like that, but I do know the basis, and I do know what that book and what the Bible was constructed as he has even mentioned stories and things and narrations of certain people, of what they did, and like Jesus especially, especially in the New Testament. And they got different, and it's broken in two halves, New Testament and the Old Testament, So basically, a lot of the versions of the Bible and whatever was of course made and put in there, and there was a lot of corruption and contradictions and so forth. So I'm with him on a lot of what he's saying. So as he moves on, we'll move on to where he tries to start everything up. Hold on. See where he's at now.
Family. I said, do you share the same information? And he said, no. I said, you mean?
Okay. he's going to get into. He was getting into one of the guys who were the tour guides. One of the main tour guides is doing their own like tour guide that he does take from, and he's going to show him in the video. His name is Quasi something. Let me see if I can get to that. Hold on for a sec. We'll get to it. Okay, we're going to start right there. So let's see.
Because it's time for us to come out of ignorance. It's time for us to know something beyond than what we have been just told in the education system of what is our truth. So let me get into.
Oh, there it is. Ashura Quasi, I think is what it's saying. Let me see.
Let's get into Ashura. This is crazy. He's going
Ashura Quasi. Ashura Quasi. Yeah, that's his name, and he's done. And it's like excerpts from Ashura Quasi, African Origin of Christianity, because you might not be able to see it. And it's a DVD that he got, I guess.
About this December 25th, the birth. This is what Egypt says. This ain't about what he said. You're gonna see it on stones, written in stones, and all right there. I'll be back.
Now I wanna give you understanding of where he's coming from, because this is like that with a lot of the Kemet people and the people into Ma'at worship and like this, which is ancient Egyptian worship, Egyptology and all, whatever you want to call it. So basically they based a lot of their foundation of their research and their proofs that they bring on stone hieroglyphics, writing in stone, which is hieroglyphics is Egyptian picture like drawings to depict or to symbolize certain stories that they're telling you and trying to leave. They didn't know how to write, with text. They didn't know how to write with letters and stuff like that. Or they didn't. I'm not going to say they didn't know how to write, but they didn't do that. The way that they communicated or left history or whatever, their history of their people and what was done in their lives, and especially their rulers, the rulerships and stuff like that, they would do it with hieroglyphics, and they would etch it into stone. And because they felt, and these people who follow this following, they think that the proofs is due to because just being etched into stone. That is not a prerequisite of proof. Just like you can say, he doesn't say later on that he doesn't trust the textual in books and stuff, which is understood. That's clear. But you have to have what you call a canonical basis of these etchings. And that's where science comes in, that the people were able to find, as though with writing, there was proofs of people who preserved these writings, of who they were and the history and how they preserved it and what they went through. And then also the finding of the time that they are like the scientists, they're scientists. They're not basing their studies on religion. They're basing their studies on physical, proof that they're finding. This thing was found as a like, for instance, anthropology. They find these artifacts, and if they're writings on parchment paper or whatever type of substance of a surface that they can write on in text, not hieroglyphics, but the ones who did hieroglyphics, yeah, that too. And then they can trace back the time through their scientific technology or their, things that they have to do that, to trace back when this was actually done. And it's really, really great for that. This new technology was been able to do that. They have their own ways of doing this. So that's also in line with just etching on the wall. You can't just say, oh, because it could have been somebody else who did it. I've watched documentary about Egypt and how the people were going into these pyramids, and not just in the pyramids of the three pyramids, the great three pyramids in Giza, which is connected to Cairo. Cairo, Giza is where the main three is. I was at those pyramids. I went there and didn't go in because of my Islamic position. Those come to know those are places that are like graveyards. They're like a mausoleum, a huge, humongous mausoleum. Okay, wonder of the world. That's what they call them. That's what pyramids are. They're mausoleums. They're just majorly huge, with bodies and people who are dead are stored, and their properties and their parts of things that they had in the life of this life, or in their times when they was alive, goes in that mausoleum with them. Their slaves, everything, whoever, especially if they was rulers in higher positions, and their family, even some at the mother, the father, the husband, the wife, children if they died, and everything goes in there. Okay, so that's how the pyramids were. So it's talking about the pyramids and talking about etching in the stone. People were entering there like normally, like as many as times as they were able to, if without dying, excluding the people who died in the process of trying to rob. Okay, rob and change things. Like a person who comes and is traveling, and you got kids. They're traveling, the teenagers, maybe the hippies back in the day would know, and they go and they find a spot and they want to like carve into a tree their names, their initials and stuff. That doesn't prove that they carved into that tree, that it was just them and at this time, and you can't prove that fully. You gotta do some research on that and prove when they did, and then prove who it was that said it, and if that was the right person and connected with the right person who did it, who wrote it. So this shouldn't be a prerequisite because it was edged and sewn. That means it's truth. And he even said, no, it doesn't mean that it's all truth, and that's correct. So we shouldn't really base all our belief on that. I can't, and I never did. Even when I was studying with Dr. Jeffries and he was teaching, and I wasn't Muslim. I wasn't, upon Islam to believe in Allah and worship Him alone. Okay, I was on that, and there was some inconsistencies. I was like, wow, and I never liked the fact of how this thing with this God worship thing, extra gods, it could never sit with me. I always had a tawhid or pure monotheistic heart, but I just had, of course, like many, sin that didn't take me away from doing bad things that I shouldn't have done. But I didn't know Allah like I know Him now. So, I strive better to be a better human being now, more than I was, but staying away from sin. But the point is that, what was then written and etched in stone does not prove with 100% that what they taught, what they left, the knowledge that they left about with these pictures and symbols about what it was and who was this person and who worshipped this and which god this was and which goddess this was, and this was all these stories doesn't clearly 100% say that this is what it was. That's what happened. Only the people who lived then know for sure. And that's with any history. But it's the way that it was preserved, besides these rocks and stones. And it's the time. And then you had other stories that went along and pieced into the puzzle. Okay, now we're going to get into what he's saying and continue and see what he's talking about in relation to Christianity and in relation to Jesus and his mother and the birth and all this type of stuff. So let's listen.
Let's go ahead and start this.
This is the lecture. This guy Quasi.
And validation and research and see the temples. It says the carving from the temples of Ifrit Karnak is called today. Sahu Nepet, Orion was Lord of the heavens. So here we see that this is Sahu, this is Neb, and this is Pet. So our ancestors saw Orion was Lord of the heavens. They carved it on the temples, but why did they put it there? That's what we want to look at. They saw as we go back to the scriptures. We'll bring the scriptures in the court of law. Is it in the scriptures? Yes, it's in the scriptures.
Now, point on that. It was carved in. It was done. Why did they do them? So you're asking a question. So now, did you give an answer? But later on, he may give an answer. I can't remember. But this is my second time coming back to this video because I watched it already the first time on my own. So he's going to bring biblical verse that will go along with what had happened and what was written. And he's breaking down. He's breaking down the hieroglyphics. Now I don't know how much a professional translator from hieroglyphics is he. You know what I'm saying? Or writings that the meanings of what they were. That everything he's professionally doing this on his own, or that he's taken from somebody who was professional. I don't know his background on that, but I do know that that's required. Dr. Jeffries clarified that. Other scholars have of the Pan-African movements and Black nationalism, and because they pretty much all the same. They just have different ways of how they go about it. You know, dealing with Afrocentricity, put it that way. You know, or, you know, just being minded like that. They basically all, on a consensus, speak the same thing, that there's needed, required qualifications to translate these things. So he's translating. So let's see what he comes up with, and he tries to put it together with biblical terms.
In Amos chapter 5, verse 8, it says, "Seeking him that maketh the 7 stars of Orion." Uh-oh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Seeking him that maketh the 7 stars of Orion. Well, our ancestors saw that Asar, our spiritual father, and the Zeptepi, for our spirit to go back to him, to rise up our caress, we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the constellation of Orion long before it was in Amos, and the scriptures were even in existence. This is the Zeptepi, or the first time of creation. Our ancestors saw through the constellation, through the heavenly bodies, through astrotheology, through the cosmos, the first divine mother and father for them to live for eternity. A Set represented Sahu, called Ceres today, and Asar represented Orion. Our spiritual mother and father that we carved on the temple. Here we see the earliest story of Asar, who had an evil brother named Set. Many versions of the story, who got 72 conspirators to crucify him. Here we see this is long before the Cain and Abel story. You got it carved on the temple. And although you see it carved on the temples on the outside, still on the inside, they're still beautifully painted black. It's through this story of the union of Asar and Asar's resurrection.
Okay, as you see again, and I'm trying to go into the Quran because there was some verses that I want to speak on. So, but basically, he's getting into the pictures. Okay, like I said, hieroglyphics, or the picture representations of stories of their people, whether it's rulers, whether it's, first we'll go up in the rank, gods, goddesses, and this is plural. This is polytheism. This is also, the rituals is paganistic. Okay, because paganism is something that's made up. A lot of these people made this up. This is not something that the Creator himself gave from the beginning, because there's clarity in monotheism, that this life has been based on monotheism because of the unity of all his creation runs under one power. So the polytheistic mentality is a fallacy, is an error in mankind's mentality, mankind's ideology, to think that there are other gods that govern the elements, or govern you as a human being. I mean, I remember from my mother, like I told you before, I was introduced to my mother's belief background that she got into after Catholicism, and pretty much left Catholicism, not fully, but left it in a way where she was going to put forth, and first and foremost, her Afrocentricity, her African heritage of belief and spirituality, which was in Nigeria, based in Nigeria, called Yoruba. In Yoruba, they have their own way of practicing spirituality besides the Muslims as well. The Yoruba tribe, which is a tribe, has Muslims as well, but the main ones that practice the religion called Ife, okay, divinity or divination, African divination, where they are into gods, plural gods, having the governance of their life and their human life living, as well as the natural life around them that surrounds them. So basically, that's what was going on, and these pictures is just representations of that. So these people, look to these pictures as their history, and now we got our people, because we lost a lot of our history, lost a lot of knowledge. And it's funny because a lot of us who are African American don't even realize that most of our heritage is based from Muslim background. West African Muslim, we're not even dealing with North Africa. You have portions of some brothers and sisters have North African DNA in them, but most of the DNA of us is coming from West Africa. And predominantly the Muslims is there, not and in North Africa. And it was not Kemet, and all these beliefs are gone. This stuff is gone and dead. The people are trying to reawaken it. The Kemetic people, the people who are trying to reawaken this stuff, that's what they're doing, because they want to have something to hold on. They want to get away from it, a way of migrating away from the European dominance and white supremacist dominance. And it's understood, but you're going down a path that you're not realizing that has a lot of errors with it as well. So, but basically, let us continue to listen to what he's saying.
The union of Asana said they have a holy child. It's told on the papyruses where the name paper came from. We see Tahuti, who did not worship animals, but Tahuti, the divine nectar, the messenger corresponding to Gabriel in the gospel, announces to the goddess of Set that she give a divine immaculate conception and virgin birth. So here you had this spiritual story where Tahuti came, who was a spiritual law, said a Set would have a holy child. This is long before Gabriel, the angel of the Lord, came to the back door and told Mary that she was going to have an immaculate conception. Now, our story was more spiritual because Tahuti gave the call, and Amun came to Asar and said that your wife, Aset, would have an immaculate conception. Now, I don't know about you, brother, but your wife came to you and said an angel of the Lord in the back room came and said that she had an immaculate conception. I don't know if you go for it or not. I don't.
Now, I know on that end, some people try to use that, especially those who are against the Immaculate Conception or against the understanding of Jesus being born without a father or being conceived without a father through his mother. That that argument right there that he's bringing, he's trying to say, well, would you believe in that your wife had an immaculate conception, or somebody you knew that their wife had an immaculate conception or something like that, right? That doesn't give you no basis of, okay, this is not true, that it can never happen, because Allah is the creator of all things. He created the universe. He didn't have any need for any help in that aspect. And he created Adam. He created the first human being that didn't have a mother nor a father. Took him out of the earth. He created the animals out of the earth. He created the angels out of light. He created the jinn out of smokeless fire. Elements. Okay, these are elements. That's what Islam teaches. See, the Bible don't get into that. And we know that. But Islam is a whole nother thing, different thing. A whole nother different way that some of you brothers and sisters don't realize that you got to come to learn. Seek knowledge. And you shall find. Inshallah. So let me get into something here real quick. This is a surah, or verse in the Quran that I want to read about, and it deals with the stars. Hold on for a sec. 754. Now listen to this. This is what Allah says. And shows that the control and the power that the Creator has. Not creators or gods or goddesses. And I'm going to get into that because he brings a lot of, the brother Kofi brings a lot of, or Black2Africa brings a lot of points on with this guy as well, Quasi, talking that a lot of the Europeans, and we're going to leave it with them because we know about their history, that were not, they basically were against women having high stature and position, and they didn't accept women to be in the rights that man had, to be in that position, to give them the rights that they had, as the same. And in some aspect in Islam, we know that's kind of the same as well, because Allah created us differently, and we have different positions and roles in our life. A man can't bear a child, and a woman has to bear a child. When she's bearing a child, she can't do what the man can do. And when she has a menses, it's the same thing. All these different things that are different from men and women. You know what I mean? Even though today the roles are changing and they're being forced to try to change the roles because of their desires. But a woman being a goddess, being the creator, no, because masculine masculinity is not Allah's attribute. He's beyond that. Now, when we say he, that's just the word. That's just the way we term him, because of the knowledge of the first beginning of what man or anything starts out with a male, not with a woman. The woman or the female. The females are derived from the men, and they have to work together. The men and the women. That's correct. And rulership as well. You have a king and a queen, but the position of the male is still above, and the only reasons why, because the Creator created in that way. Not because we supposed to put ourselves up there, or the woman supposed to put ourselves up there on that pedestal, and then she's under us as our, queen or whatever like that. Oh, but then he bring the point in there later on, and you'll see what they say. But anyway, let me read this. Indeed, your Lord, indeed, your Lord is Allah, who created the heavens and the earth in 6 days, and then he rose over the istawa, the throne, really in a manner that suits his majesty. So he's above his creation. This is what he's saying. He brings the night as a cover over the day. He controls the night to take over the day at the times that are there, that we're supposed to have nightfall. Seeking it rapidly, and he created the sun, the moon, the stars, subjected to his command. Surely his is the creation and commandment. Blessed is Allah, the Lord of the Alameen. So saying this, and as far as in relation to the stars and the stuff that they speak about, and they have gods and beings that control the stars, or they have some influence on stars, and the stars connect with them, and then they get into like the 7 stars. And all this different symbolic and symbolism. And that's another thing we got to be careful about. A lot of us base our life on symbolism and superstition, stuff that we learned from even the European as well, not let alone our own people who have done this for thousands and thousands of years, as the Egyptians have done. A lot of their life, and you get into the history of their way of life and their traditions, are based on a lot of superstition and symbolism, and because they were people who were just like most people on the earth in these times. They had to learn on their own. They had to make their own inferences. They had to do their own theories, and it wasn't always proven to what they believed it to be and make it up to be. You know what I mean? That this was a god of this, and this was a god of that, and this was a goddess of this. And as they looked up into the sky, and the son of God, Horus, or Osiris, and all these different other gods' names, these main famous god name in Egyptian tradition and religion, their spirituality. They don't, these are human beings that made inferences, made studies, and they got into thinking and said, oh yeah, that's what it is. Because they learned to love the person who was actually alive, living as a person. with these names, or they had another name that they derived another version of a name to depict their greatness. You know what I mean? So Allah clarifies that He's above that, above His throne of the universe, let alone the stars, and that He has control over it. No other gods had no real control or influence or involvement. This is something that people later on had done, and this is where it speaks on with Noah alayhi salam, his people, how they was into God's plural God worship, polytheism, as we know it, and then they had someone who was totally disbelieved. Even then, there was atheists too. Atheists always had existed, as well as polytheists and tagut, people who considered themselves gods, god bodies, like we know today. Like I used to be with them group of dudes in the streets back in the day. I've been through all that stuff. You know what I mean? Black nationalism to its fullest extent. Hating white people to the fullest. I mean, as much as I could, not to stay away from them. I don't hate them now. I hate their actions that they've done over the years and the centuries that they've been doing this stuff and oppression of our people. But there are those who follow and believe in Allah, and they're Muslim. And there are those who are Asian, a lot of them, almost 600,000 Indonesians. You know, they're my brothers, they're my sisters. So alhamdulillah, and Allah blessed this earth to come back to know Him with Islam, that He sent His last messenger, His last word. And that's pretty much it. So I've gone a little bit long, this is 51 into the video. There's going to be a second video that I'm going to do. I just have to, because I can't make this video go too long. I don't want to just, you know, people are going to be like, oh my God, this is too long. And they're not doing a live. And this is not one of the big time YouTubers, everybody joining in and partaking. I'm Brother Taalib, who's just pretty much some people like me, and the masses just, they're where they want to be. So alhamdulillah, and that's all good. But, you know, sometimes when you speak things that people don't want to hear, they don't want to hear it. So I know that, even as the brother says himself, if this is not for you, then you don't need to be here listening in or whatever. Now, I was listening because I was curious, and all that, a lot of stuff that was said, I've heard this before. I've dealt with this before. So I'm just bringing it back, because it got to be a balance. It has to be a balance. Can't just be him bringing his point and his position. It has to be a proper position as well to follow behind. And that's what I'm doing, and not trying to attack him and go against him, but trying to bring a pure balance to say that Islam has a total different understanding in relation to how Jesus came to be, how his mother and the conception. So I'm going to get into more of that when we come back with the next video. So just bear with me, hang in there with me, continue to finish out this 53 minutes coming in, or it's going to be at least more, a little bit than 50 minutes. But stay with me throughout the video, please, and go into the next video and watch the rest that I'm going to try to finish up this reaction. So it will be a part 1 and a part 2 of this reaction. Okay. All right. Thank you for listening. Peace and blessings be upon you. And, you know, keep it up, keep on going, keep in the loop, keep your notifications if you're subscribing with me with the bell icon clicked. And those of you who are not subscribed, subscribe. And, you know, I can give you more of what I bring into the know. Okay? Thank you very much again. Peace and blessings, and keep up the lessons. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.